here's the thing, guys. It is discussed and it's trained and it's recommended that when you are first learning this business, to master one side of this business first before you graduate into tapping into another part of this business, and that is true. The easiest way to get your foot in the door when you are working leads is to door knock each one. Guys, I'm going to tell you, whether you're door knocking a lead, whether you're calling and scheduling an appointment over the phone, pretty much the script and the objections and the rebuttals are all pretty much the same. But it's a lot easier to get your foot in the door. It's a lot easier to get around I don't know what you're talking about, I didn't send anything in, I've changed my mind. When you're right there face-to-face with the person who actually sent in the lead card, and you have a copy of the lead card that they had sent in, and they see that you're an actual person, you've got credibility with the shirts, and you've got the name badge, and you've got the bond official. It's a lot easier to get your on first contact when you're door knocking, and it's a lot easier to get around those initial objections or concerns, excuses as to why they don't want you to come in upon first contact than it is over the phone. So guys, once you have mastered the art of door knocking, you need to graduate into calling your leads and scheduling appointments ahead of time. Why? Because when you have around 10 appointments scheduled ahead of time for the very next day, guys, you're not going out there chasing rabbits. You're not going out there spending 2 or 3 hours trying to find somebody at home. And sometimes that will happen. There are going to be some days where even when you've got all your leads routed out, you're using InRoute, you're using Road Warrior, you're using all the tools that we recommend that are laid out in front of you. There are just going to be those days where, man, you spend 3 or 4 hours and you can't catch nobody at home. What in the world is going on here? And it is kind of defeating and frustrating, but those days do happen. There are other days where it seems like, everybody that you knock on is at home. You're just having one of those days where you're catching fire, everybody's home, you're getting inside. But the days where, you might spend an hour or two trying to find somebody at home are going to be greater than those where you catch everybody at home, especially when you get a batch of leads where it seems like the average age is mid-50s to low 60s. And sometimes you do get those batches of leads as well. So these people are not retired. They're still working. They probably don't come home until the evening time, or you probably won't be able to catch them until the weekends. So guys, that's the power of the phone. Back when I was personally producing on a weekly basis, guys, again, we didn't have GPS. And when I finally got my first GPS unit, my second year in this business, it was hooked up to my laptop. It was a program, Microsoft Streets or something like that, that I had on my laptop, and then I had a device that I plugged into the USB port, and then it hung over my rearview mirror to capture that satellite signal, because I couldn't afford that $3,000 Garmin piece. That was how I used my GPS back in the day when I finally got a GPS unit, was my laptop that was in the passenger seat. And we didn't have route planners. We didn't have Road Warrior. We didn't have all the tools and the luxuries of what we have available to us today. So you really had to master the art of phoning and appointment setting. And that's what I did, especially when you're working out there in the rural areas where you're going to be working in one county and you've got leads, 40, 50 leads that are literally shotgun blast all over one county, sometimes multiple counties. Do you really want to door knock each and every one of those leads? The answer is probably not, especially when you're working out there in the county areas and you're on these dirt roads and you spend 30, 40 minutes just trying to find one cotton picking home because you're using a county map where one side of the map is just nothing but the county, and you can't be driving your car when the entire map takes up your front windshield. You follow what I'm saying here? So guys, appointment setting is maximizing your time. Time is your most important precious asset. It always has been, it always will be, both personally and professionally speaking here. And when you hear of these people, these agents in Senior Life and with other companies that are putting up $8, $9, $10, $11, $15,000 consistently every week, here's my question for you. Do you think that they're door knocking each and every one of those leads? Probably not. They're probably running appointments. There's no probably about it, guys. They are scheduling appointments, and they have their week lined up to where when they're out there in the field, that's all they're doing. They're going from one appointment to the next 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 appointment, and that's how it's done. That's how you run 7, 8, 9, 10 appointments consistently each and every day. It takes the right script. It takes the right discipline. It takes the right skill set. It takes the right activity. It takes the right everything in order to be able to put up those kind of numbers. And so that's why today what we are covering is appointment setting 201. So that way we can graduate you guys into the skill of appointment setting, contacting. It doesn't matter, guys, if it's a lead that's 2 years old. It doesn't matter if it's a yellow page lead, a TV lead, a direct mail lead, a Facebook lead. It don't matter. When you have the right skill, when you have the right script, when you have the right discipline, when you dedicate and allocate a certain day or two towards doing nothing but putting your blinders on, getting on the phone, pounding that phone, and becoming a phone warrior, and loading up your week, and you know the tips and the tricks and employing the right techniques and scheduling appointments upon first contact, guys, you can't not have a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 week. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. So what you see on your screen right now are real numbers that I posted on GroupMe earlier this week, guys. So as you all know, that I am a social media troll. I am a member of a million different Final Expense Facebook groups that are out there. Bless you. You might want to keep your phone muted. And in addition to the connections that I have both internally with Senior Life and externally with other IMOs and carriers. And guys, I'm always monitoring and measuring and seeing what these other guys, the content that they're posting. And that's where all these different screenshots that I posted on GroupMe and that I'm getting ready to cover with you guys, that's where these came from. So I didn't create these to inflate any numbers, to create this fallacy. Guys, this is real stuff. These are real numbers that real agents are putting up that have no better of an opportunity than what you guys have in front of you today. So here's one, for example, where this person dialed 480 and made 480 dials that week. Almost 500. Now, if they contact the same lead, if they call the same lead one time and then they hang up and they call them right back immediately, back to back, and then they're employing what we call the 3x3 rule or the triple tap dial, which I'll cover with you guys here in a minute. That counts as 3 different dials. So understand that if you call a lead back to back to back 3 different times within 30 seconds, that's going to count as 3 different dials, just so you know, not one. So here, this particular person dialed 500, 480. They made contact with 23. So that tells me that this person is working a lot of age leads. They're working a lot of B and C leads that they're not catching anybody at home. Nobody's answering the phone. So they made contact with 23. They scheduled 14 appointments. They saw 7 of them. They sold 4 deals, rescheduled 5, and they ended up with $5,600 worth of production. So that particular agent made a grand total of over $5,000 in 1 week, which when you see the rest of these numbers, that's a mediocre week that this guy put up. But for the average American, they hit the lottery. And here's one of their colleagues, one of their agents, a lady named Ashley, dialed 219 times, made 56 contacts, scheduled 40 appointments, 6 of those appointments for the next week, saw 11 of them, sold 5, rescheduled 2, and put up $7,000 worth of production. Again, these are mediocre numbers. Here's another agent, completely different text right here. 112 dials, 33 contacts, 23 appointments that they scheduled, which was split between 2 days. They saw 8 of those appointments. They made 6 sales. They had to reschedule 9. So they had 9 no-shows. They actually had more no-shows than they did actual sits, presentations where they got their foot in the door, and they still put up over $7,500 worth of production that week. Here's another post where this person doesn't have the number of dials, but they scheduled 21 appointments, 6 presentations, 10 of those no-showed, on rescheduled 6, 5 sales, and $4,000 in production. This BB here put in 250 dials for that week, 31 contacts, 25 appointments, 11 presentations, 9 sales, 9 apps, 8 reschedules, 6 no-shows, $6,500. Now we're going to start getting to some pretty powerful numbers. Here's a post for 230 dials, 47 contacts, 34 appointments. Out of those 34 appointments, they saw 11 of them, 12 sales, 11 reschedules, 12 no-showed, almost $10,000 worth of production. One person with 200 dials, 25 contacts, 20 appointments scheduled, 2 of them rescheduled, so a total of 22 total appointments, sold 11, saw 14, those numbers should be backwards. They saw 14, sold 11, they were no-showed 3 times, they wrote $10,000 worth of production that week. You know, guys, what would you do if you made $10,000 in 1 week? Think about that. That's $10,000 in commission in just 1 week. Now, do you think they did that work in 20 hours that week? Do you think they did that work in 30 hours that week? Or do you think they did that work in 50 or 60 hours that week? And then another person. So that was one of their agents. This particular person who made this post, 169 dials, 30 contacts, 23 appointments, 12 sits, 11 apps, needed to reschedule 9 times, and then $10,530 of production. So between those two, that was $20,000 just between 2 agents. That's insane. But wait, there's more. Guys, you can look at the rest of these numbers that are here. This is a different post. This is a different post. Here's one where this lady did she took a picture of her paper that of her log, and I'll blow it up for you. They made 312 dials, 42 contacts, saw 11 of those appointments, wrote 12 apps. Total production that week was $12,000. This is the one that knocks my socks off right here, and I'm going to follow this up with a screenshot of their actual schedule, their planner for that week. This person wrote $45,000 in 3 weeks, and here's how they did it. In the first week, this lady wrote she made 352 dials. She made contact with 71. She scheduled 53 appointments in 1 week, which is insane. She saw 17 of those 53 appointments. She sold 15 of them. The total amount of time that she invested on the phone in order to create those 53 appointments, she logged at 19 hours and 30 minutes. So basically 1 full day. She actually does this in 2 days, which I'm going to show you her planner here in a minute. Sundays and Mondays are dedicated, the full day of appointment setting. And she wrote $20,000 that week. In her second week, 352 dials, 61 contacts, 53 appointments. Out of those 53, she saw 17, a total of 14 sales, $17,000 of production that week. So in these 2 weeks alone, in 2 weeks, this lady had wrote over $37,000. In actual dollars, in gross income, immediate gross income, that's going to yield you somewhere around, I'm going to say, $20,000. $20,000 in 2 weeks net income, gross net income. Third week, 253 dials, 47 contacts. So the majority of the dials, they ain't reaching nobody. They're just getting voicemails. Made contact with 47 out of the 47 contacts. There was 14 that they didn't schedule an appointment. 33 they did. Out of the 33 appointments, she saw a 9. Quite frankly, I think that this lady needs to improve in her appointment setting C ratio. She's getting stood up on an awful lot of appointments, way too many than with the number of appointments that this person states that they're actually scheduling. But still, she saw 9 of those people, sold 8, and wrote over $7,300 that week. Now, let me flip past that screen and let's go to this one right here. This is a copy of that lady's schedule. One of the weeks where she wrote like either 20 grand or 17 grand. I think this was a $20,000 week. Look at this schedule here. Look how deep. Now, if you have a family like I do, guys, I'm not going to put in this many hours. I just won't, because I have a family. Now, back when I was single and when I first started doing this business, yes, I was putting in these kind of hours. I was religiously working around 78 hours, around 6 to maybe 7 days a week. If you have a family, if you have a spouse, if you have children, I think that this is too much. I think it's overboard. I think it's wonderful to go out there and write $20,000 worth of production in 1 week. But if you have a family, you should have some sort of a balance, work, family. This lady does not have that. So on Sundays, and this is actually Easter Day, you can see from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m., major dialing sessions. So they're pounding the phones. And she actually had an appointment at 8 o'clock Sunday night. At 6:30, this lady has a morning walk on Mondays and Tuesdays, a little rah-rah session. And then the second day is nothing but another phoning day from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. 2 solid days back-to-back where this lady is doing nothing but pounding the phones. Smiling and dialing, smiling and dialing, smiling and dialing, smiling and dialing. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the way through Saturday, half of the day, she's out there running her appointments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 appointments just Wednesday alone. Thursday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 appointments. You can see that there are periods of her day where she's double booking appointments. Some companies and some agencies recommend that, so when you get stood up on an appointment, you've got another appointment as a backup plan. I've never been a big fan of double booking appointments, because when you double book yourself or when you book your appointments too close together, it seems like those are the appointments that are always home. And then before you know it, you're catching everybody at home and you're getting farther and farther and farther behind schedule. Not only that, but there is an expense to these leads unless you're working a lot of B and C leads, aged leads. But anyway, I wanted to give you a snapshot of what this person's schedule looks like for one particular week and how organized this particular person is, and the level of discipline that they have towards making sure that failure is not an option, and they have the amount of activity that they need in order to go out there and generate that type of production. Doesn't happen by accident. And another thing is, it doesn't happen by just working 20 leads for that week. Let's go back to Advisor Resources, guys. I'm just going to read off of Advisor Resources here, taking it from the top, guys. In order to book a solid week's worth of appointments every single week, first of all, this is no secret, you've got to work fresh leads at the beginning of each and every week, mixed in with some follow-up leads when possible, or actually, when I say follow-up leads, B leads. So I need to edit that out, and I need to switch that out with B leads. What I'm talking about are aged leads, especially aged direct mail leads. Guys, a final expense lead never dies, just unfortunately the prospect does. A direct mail lead has the longest shelf life, and the only problem with an aged direct mail lead of more than a year or two old is that oftentimes, more often than not, numbers will get disconnected. people will move. But if that particular prospect who filled out that direct mail card is still at that residence, if I can't reach them by phone, I'm going to catch them at home when I knock on their door. And there's an 80% chance that they still haven't done anything about their final arrangements, which means I'm going to get my foot in the door, and more than likely I'm going to end up helping these people. It's not the age of the lead. It's your mindset. If you think the lead is bad, it's bad. If you think the lead is good, guess what? It's going to be good. Either way, guys, you're going to be right. But in order to do that, you've got to be working a fresh set of leads every single week, every week, and you got to mix that in with some B leads. Okay, so B leads are imperative. If you don't have access to any age leads in that particular area that you're working, reach out to me and let's see what the company has. Let's see what I have in my inventory that I can hook you up with. Maybe I've got 30 or 40 or 50 B leads that I can give you, or we can work out a deal, that you can add to that. And as long as you follow the script, guys, you'll be surprised as to the results that you will yield off of not only scheduling appointments off of a B lead, but also seeing that person and writing some business off of it as well. Second bullet point, do not rely on just one type of a lead. What I've learned, probably more here in the past 2 years than ever, especially with all these social media groups that are popping up, information is more available today than what it was even 5 years ago, guys. And I'm going to tell you that pretty much 100% of all these final expense Facebook groups, social media groups that I'm a part of, they didn't exist 5 years ago. So the content is more available today than it ever has been. And I tell you what, I have been really coming up with some brilliant, brilliant ideas that I borrowed from other people and I've made my own. That I've learned. You say, you know what? That's how they're doing it. And guys, what I've learned, what I know for a fact is top producers with any insurance company, Senior Life, Lincoln Heritage, Liberty Bankers, whoever it is, or IMOs like One Life, Innovative Financial, Equus Financial, Symmetry Financial, whoever it is, the top producers are working a mixed assortment of leads every single week. In other words, they're not just working direct mail for that week. They're not just working telemarketed leads. They're not just working Facebook leads. You know what they're working? They're working a mixture of all these, everything. They're working direct mail, they're working Facebook, they're working telemarketer, they're working B leads, they're working everything. They're dialing anywhere from 100 to 150 leads for that week on a solid Monday or a Tuesday or both days, or a Sunday and a Monday, and that's how they're loading up 25, 30 scheduled appointments every single week. Guys, the cheaper the lead is, the lower the quality is. The more expensive the lead, technically, the better quality that lead is going to be. But you should work a combination of all of those leads. Guys, I picked up on a vendor, a telemarketed vendor yesterday, and it's from a producer that I'm going to say that this guy's been in final expense insurance sales from what I've learned about 5 years now. Prior to final expense, he was working at Subway. This guy is not affiliated with Senior Life Insurance. It's just one of the connections that I've made. And this guy, I've just from the content that I've seen this gentleman post over the course of the past 2 years, very reputable, very ethical, and I like what I see. Well, this guy didn't go out there and light the world on fire, but I will say that he consistently puts up around $5,000 to $6,000 every week. And this gentleman made a post that a $300 investment, and he wrote $6,000 in production in a week and a half off of that $300 investment. Well, so I sent him a message. What kind of leads are you working? Come to find out, this gentleman took a telemarketed lead vendor for a test drive, and $10 a lead. So he bought 30 leads, and out of those 30 leads, he ended up writing $6,000 worth of production. So you think about it, that's 30 leads right there. Now, understand that the majority of those leads are going to be garbage. They're not going to know who you are. They're not going to know why you're calling. Even though you say, well, now you're the security code, your favorite color is blue. All the telemarketed leads have the same security passwords. So whenever you reach out to them, that way you're identifying who you are and validating that they had actually spoke to somebody here recently about a final expense insurance quote. But see, guys, when you do 30 telemarketed leads for a nominal $300, you add that to 20 Facebook leads that are $17, to maybe 15 direct mail leads, in addition to about 50 age leads, B leads. You know, that's where you've got 100 leads right there, and you're sitting on the phone all day Sunday and all day Monday, or if you don't work on Sundays, all day Monday and all day Tuesday, and lining up a Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday, and a Saturday. That's how you're going to write $10,000 that week. Did you invest about $1,000 in those leads? Yeah, probably. Was your return on investment tenfold? Yeah, probably. As long as you're following the system, you're going out there and working your face off and following the system, then yeah, you're gonna make about $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000. How much did you really invest? Nothing, because you made about $5,000 in return. That's how it's done. The next bullet point here is there's two different systems here that we recommend. One is where you're working referrals. So two different models. One is taking fewer leads and generating and working more referrals, or the other one is just being a lead junkie and working nothing but leads for the entire week. And that is, if you plan on generating and working lead referrals, then we recommend you take at least 20 to 30 new leads every week, phoning your leads on a Sunday, scheduling for a Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, dedicate that day to phoning the referrals that you generated on Monday and Tuesday and scheduling those for Thursday and Friday. So you got two different phoning days, a Sunday and a Wednesday, or you can do a Monday and a Thursday, and then running appointments the next 2 days, and then the second day running appointments on the next 2 days. So that is more the profitability side or business model, where you're doing a lower investment in the beginning, and you're generating a lot of referrals those next 2 days, and then the following day, you're pounding the phone, calling those referrals that you generated the previous 2 days, and setting those appointments up for the next 2 days. The other way you could do this is if you plan on working primarily leads, only leads, throughout the week, then we recommend you taking at least 40 to 60 leads and phoning Sunday and Monday, and scheduling for Tuesday through Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Again, if you do not want to work on Sundays, and I understand that, and I have no problems with that, I get it. You say, well, I don't work on Sundays. That's the day I dedicate to the Lord. Trust me, that's the way it should be. Then get on the phone on a Monday and a Tuesday and schedule appointments for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Guys, you should be shooting for 8 to 10 scheduled appointments every day that you're out there in the field. 8 to 10 scheduled appointments. If you're one of those guys, I got 2 appointments tomorrow, that's nothing to brag about. And that's definitely not something to get excited about. And especially, what if those 2 appointments stand you up? You don't see those 2. Well, you put all your eggs in just those 2 baskets, and, well, they're not home. Now what? Well, now back to the drawing board. You're either on the phone trying to, set up some appointments for the next day, and you're out there door knocking, and you're just working a lot harder instead of working smarter while you're working harder. Guys, anything less than 6 to me was never a solid day. Anything less than 6 appointments for the following day or for the rest of the week on a certain day where I had less than 6 appointments, I had anxiety. I was like, oh, man, that's going to be a tough day. I was okay with 5 or 6, but, man, I'll tell you what, if I had less than 5, then it was just not a good thing for me. So you should be shooting for 8 to 10 scheduled appointments every day that you're out there in the field. Now, you need to manage your territory, and you need to group your appointments so that they're relatively close geographically. So ideally, you need to be working in one confined area per day. Now, there's a term that I like to use called shotgun blast. And in orientation classes, guys, I will show you the receipts, the weekly receipts that I would receive from one of my first managers that I would receive every time that I was assigned a new batch of leads. Okay, these receipts broke it down by that zip code and how many leads were in that zip code. Some weeks when I was working in like a Kansas City, I'd have 40 leads in one zip code. Some weeks when I was out there in the middle of nowhere, Missouri or Kansas or wherever I was at, I was working about 30 zip codes. One lead here, one lead there. And so what I would have to do is I would have to organize my leads to where I'd break them up to where, okay, I've got, looks like about 15 to 17 leads in this section of the county here. In the southern part of the county, I've got 20 leads there, and up in this county, I've got about 13 leads. And so that's how I would organize it, and that's how I would schedule my days. I would just pound the phone and call one set of leads and set up for one particular day, and then the other set of leads that I would have paper clipped together, I'd schedule for another day. That's what I'm referring to here, guys. When you're shotgun blast all over a county or multiple counties, then you need to group your appointments so that that way they're relatively close geographically. Again, ideally you should be in one confined area per day, never more than one county. Now, if your leads do cover multiple counties or areas, then you need to pick a different county or area to be in each day and then book accordingly. The earliest that you want to start phoning as far as on a certain day is on a Sunday. In the afternoon, try not to call Sunday mornings, guys. So sometime 1 or 2 o'clock, if you decide to make Sunday a phoning day, which is ideal, not for everybody, but as far as catching people at home, that's how I'm referring to, that's ideal. Catching people on a Sunday, especially in the afternoon and the evening. But you do not want to call any day prior to that to schedule appointments for the following day. Saturdays and Fridays, scheduling on those 2 days for the following week is setting you up for a lot of failure and a lot of missed appointments. Guys, when our market, and I'm not going to elaborate in detail if you just kind of follow or catch my drift, read between the lines. In our market, these people, by the time, if you call them on a Friday, they don't remember come Sunday, who they spoke with and what appointments they scheduled just 2 days prior to that because it was the weekend, party time. Okay, so you want to call on Sundays. So calling on a Sunday and a Monday to ensure the rest of the week is loaded up with appointments, that's ideal. But it is strongly advised against calling any time prior to Sundays simply because it dramatically increases the probability of getting stood up or porched on the appointment. So the closer that you can schedule the appointment to the day that you're calling, the better the chances are that your client's going to remember the appointment and they're going to be present when you show up for that appointment. Now, whatever days that you dedicate as your appointment setting day, you've got to invest the entire day doing nothing but pounding the phone with minimal breaks throughout the day. In other words, you got to be laser focused, get in a zone. It's all about this business and sales. It's just all about momentum, and getting in that zone. The recommended calling times is any time from, check this out, 8 a.m. to 8:59 p.m. So, well, what's a good time to call? From 8 to 8, from 8 a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. Here's the point that I'm making here, guys. Never concern yourself about the possibility of, I don't know if I want to call from 8 to 9 because they could be sleeping or they could be eating breakfast or, between 12 and 1, that's people's lunchtime. And I hear this all the time from agents. I've been hearing it for years. They won't call between 5 and 6, and I ask them why. Well, I don't want to interrupt their dinner. Who's to say that person you're calling, that they take dinner at 5 o'clock every single day? This is not 1940, guys. You do not know what each person's schedule is. You cannot try to think about what each person's schedule looks like. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody is in a completely different schedule. So your appointment setting schedule and your calling time should really look like this. 3 hours in the morning from 9 to noon. Take a lunch. And from 1 to 4, that afternoon, pound them for 3 hours. Take a dinner break. And then from 5 to 8. You know what's really cool about this schedule, especially from 5 to 8? is if you have a day that you're still weak on and you have some leads that are left over that you haven't made contact with, you still have an extra hour that you can pound the phone to fill in those cracks and fill up those days that you're light on. Guys, I used to call till 8:59 all the time. I would never call at 9 o'clock or beyond that, number one, because you can't. It's illegal, right, Everett? It's illegal. You can't call somebody past 9 o'clock, and even if you could, why would you? When my phone rings past 8 o'clock, I'm just like, oh, who's calling me at this hour? Right? If I don't recognize the number. Now, agents and all you guys, hey, call me at any time. I don't care if it's 10 o'clock. That's what I'm here for. But I'm talking about a business, somebody I don't know, and they're calling me at past 9 o'clock. It's going to have an adverse effect. But, guys, that's your schedule. Those are your calling times. From 9 to noon, 1 to 4, and 5 to 8. Blowing up the phone, pounding the phone. Now, if you cycle through all of your leads, in other words, you got 50 leads and you call on all 50 of those, restart the list from the top. And here's another thing that agents, even I used to do all the time, guys. I'm at fault. I'm not perfect, but I learned to stop doing that, is do not cherry pick your leads. Do not take sections of your leads and focus on them one at a time. Guys, you should be calling all of your leads from top to bottom and then repeat each time you finish a list. So, once I really started becoming seasoned and experienced and realized that I was just, making things a lot more difficult than what they really needed to be, what I used to do is when I take my fresh leads, I would, like a deck of cards, I'd shuffle them up. So that way it was just, a lottery effect to where, one lead's fresh and the next three are old and the next two are fresh, and the next one's old, and the next three are fresh, and so forth and so on. Just shuffle them up. Don't try to overthink it, and don't approach any particular lead with the preconceived idea of, oh, I've called this lead 20 other times. They're probably not going to answer. Or, well, they're probably going to put me off or whatever. Just treat each lead as if it's a brand new lead that you just got in your hands 5 minutes before that. Make the call, follow the script, and you will have a lot of success. The results will be positive.
Comment.
Go ahead.
The other thing that I would advise you not to do is make notes on these things. It'll affect your mindset. I used to, as an agent, same as Rusty, bad habits, tick marking how many times I'd called this particular lead on the actual lead. And what I would advise you to do is not make any kind of notes on the lead itself. One, it'll affect your mindset. Two, when you present that lead to the client and it's got all kinds of notes, they'll have a tendency to focus on your notes and not their own personal handwriting. So what I'd encourage you to do is when you are making through these calls and you need to make notes, make them on a separate piece of paper. Don't get in the habit of writing on the lead itself. How many calls? I used to check tick marks, how many times I'd called this lead.
All right, Steve, I think you're cutting out there at the very end, but we got 99% of what
I'm calling 20 times and I haven't gotten an answer. Okay.
There you are. Yeah,
That's all I had. Just making sure you don't put any kind of tick marks or any kind of notes on the lead itself.
Good points here, Steve. What about a call log, though? That's something that I always advise, so that way you can see the different times that you're at least making attempts and trying to contact that lead. So, are you talking about notes in reference to a conversation you had with the client, or are you just talking about?
No, mostly just when you start getting in a habit as you start going through these leads, you'll have a number of leads that you just can't make contact via the telephone. Whether their number's been turned off, whether they're not answering the phone because they don't recognize your number. There's a multitude of reasons why they won't answer the phone. Just because you call and they don't answer doesn't mean they're not seeing you're calling. So yeah, the call logs and letting you know and stagger your calls and when you're calling during the day, staggering your times will increase your opportunities. But what I just encourage you, don't make those notes on the lead itself. Hello?
What about voicemails? You don't leave voicemail until later on?
I tell you what, I have left voicemails. Very, very limited success with that. If I leave a voicemail, it'll sound something like this. Hey, Randy, this is Steve Ward. Hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I've got some information that you requested, period.
Little's better,
So
isn't it?
very, very, yeah, just the less is more. Here's the deal. Same rule applies on the telephone as it applies on the porch. When you make that phone call, and, that's why we script, because what an agent has a tendency to do is they'll get a question from the client, and then they'll want to start talking too much about the product. How much does this cost? Well, they start at $25, and, oh, okay, well, why do you need to meet with me? Well, I got to qualify. Well, I'll give you that right over the phone. No, I can't do that. HIPAA laws. But whatever the case may be, you've got to resist the urge to start to give them enough information. The way it was said to me, and I think sums it up the best, give them enough information to be interested, but not enough information to make a decision.
Excellent points there, Steve-O. Thank you for that. Guys, we're getting close to the 10 o'clock hour, so let me try to wrap this up here. Do not focus on the customer service work, or new business follow-ups. In other words, when it's your phoning time, guys, don't do any other types of activity. The other administrative type of tasks like thank you cards or following up with customers or clients that have called you. When it's your phoning time, that's what you do. You're on the phone calling one lead.
We used to have in the financial industry, we used to call it STP. What did STP stand for? Sacred phoning time. And it's sacred because you can't allow distractions during this. You can't be, as to Rusty's point, working on pending, working on whatever the case may be. When you're phoning, that's sacred time, and that is isolated for nothing but phoning. What I'll tell you, when you start tracking these numbers, and the game I like to play with me is what's a phone call worth to me? So if I make 250 calls and I sold $10,000, somebody do the math on that. How much is that phone call worth now? And it'll motivate you to dial that phone more, because I can tell you from experience, you don't just wake up today and start making 250 phone calls. It's a muscle. You have to exercise that, and you have to have a goal in mind and push through that. That's where the mindset comes in, is push through those dials and be determined to get those people on the telephone.
And piggybacking off of that, guys, what I have mentioned in one of Steve's previous calls as far as momentum, my story is this, of the years that I've been doing this, guys, and even when you've got somebody as seasoned as I became in this business, 6, 7, 8, 9 years into it, guys, and no pun intended here, but at the beginning of every week, I was always rusty, especially whenever there was an extended weekend, like a Memorial or Labor Day weekend or a holiday, and I got more than a Saturday and a Sunday off. I got a Friday off and a Monday off. Guys, it's all about getting back in that zone, man. And it always took me about one solid day to kind of get back in the swing of things. Phoning is no different. Whenever, every week I've always been good at calling and scheduling appointments. I've not always enjoyed it, but I've always been good and still am. So there's even that call reluctance with me. It's like, I gotta set up my week, and oh man, I got a full day of appointment setting I got to do, and it takes about a good solid hour or two before I kind of get back into that rhythm, to kind of get back into that zone. If you're phoning to schedule your appointments, and you're doing other things while in the process, you're causing yourself to get distracted, and you're causing yourself to never get into that rhythm. Guys, this business is all about, mindset, getting in a rhythm, getting that momentum, getting in that zone, being polished, and things just get a lot easier. So no distractions here. That's the bottom line. A good method for getting people to answer their phones, and this is a tip that I've recently picked up on. It's something that I've always done. I've never done it 3 times, or the 3-ring rule, so I've never heard of this until recently. But man, the feedback has just been amazing on how positive it is with these guys. I'd never, every time I call, I always do the triple tap dial. They call it the triple tap dial. What is the triple tap dial? Well, that is where you're calling your lead and letting it ring 3 times, hanging up 3 times in a row. So it rings 3 times, don't let it go to voicemail, hang up if they don't answer, and then calling them right back and doing that 3 calls in a row. So again, the triple tap dial is letting it ring 3 times, 3 dials in a row. People who typically don't answer their phone, what happens is they become curious when they see the same number, boom, immediately call them back a second or even a third time. So when I would do it, I would let it go to voicemail, and oftentimes I call back to back, but I've never picked up on this tip or this technique of just letting it ring 3 times. If they don't answer by the 3rd ring, hanging up, and then boom, calling them back and doing that 3 times in a row. Guys, do not start leaving voice messages until around, no, that is not a typo, the 20th attempt. So if you think about this, if you're doing the triple tap dial and you're calling on that lead 3 or 4 different times on your first day, that's 12 phone calls right there. So around the 2nd day, if you're not able to get a hold of that person, either they're still not answering their phone, then you want to start leaving voicemail messages. See, by leaving people
when I leave it.
Go ahead, Steve. What's that? Were you want to say something, Steve? Yeah.
When I leave a voice, yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. Your phone has been kind of acting up, but we can hear you now.
It's windy.
So
it's windy today,
Can you hear me?
and that's happening down there in the country.
So what I'll tell you is I don't leave voicemails till about Wednesday, and it's my Hail Mary the day before the last day of my week. Anybody that I haven't been able to make contact over the phone, I'll do one of 2 things. Wednesday, I'm hanging door stickers and leaving voicemails.
All right, there you have it. So what it says here, by leaving people messages on your first handful of attempts, when you start leaving messages, boom, right out the gate, what you're doing is you're identifying yourself, and in most cases you're going to give these people a reason to avoid the sales call because that's who you are and that's why you're calling them. So once you've made a valiant effort to reach your prospect, then it's acceptable to start leaving messages that are short, sweet, and to the point. Guys, always remember, less is always going to be more. So a recommended voicemail message to start leaving when you've blown up that prospect's phone to no avail is to leave them something like, hey, Mary, this is John, your senior benefits coordinator. Listen, I'm been trying to get back to you on your request. So when you do have a moment, I can be reached at 314-249-3877. All right, we'll talk to you then. Thank you. That's it. So less is more. You're telling these, you're identifying who you are and your senior benefits coordinator and that you're getting back to them on a request that they had made. That's it. Do you really need to go in any more detail than that? The answer is no. Okay? And are you going to get back? Are people going to call you back every single voicemail message that you leave them? No, I'd say probably about 30 or 40% will. Most of them still won't, and that's okay. Once I've called that person about 30 times and left them about 2 or 3 of those voicemail messages, then I'll give them complete and full disclosure. Because at the end of the day, sometimes you're going to get those people, the low-hanging fruit, unbeknownst to you, that have been waiting on your call. Hey, John, this is Rusty. I'm your senior benefits coordinator. Listen, I've left you a couple of voicemail messages. Been trying to get back to you on your request that was on that new final expense burial program for fixed income seniors. And I've been trying to make contact with you. I know you're busy. I just need you for a few quick minutes to verify a few things, and that's pretty much it. So, John, when you do have a moment, please give me a call back at this number here. That's the Hail Mary voicemail that I finally leave people after I've called them about 30, 40 different times. And guys, when making contact, here is the most important tip out of all of them. is when you make contact with the prospect and you are unsuccessful in booking an appointment. You know, in other words, you get an excuse. Oh, I'm not interested. Well, I'm just too busy. You know, they just can't come up with the time. Oh, I'm not really sure what my schedule's like. Well, yeah, call me back. Or they tell you, I can't afford it. I've already bought it. Whatever the excuse is that they give you of why they are not going to schedule an appointment, why they can't schedule an appointment with you upon first contact, door knock the lead a few days later. I throw the lead away, because at the end of the day, 90% of these people are just putting you off over the phone because they're afraid that you're a sales guy just trying to come out there selling something they don't want, need, or can't afford, when really all you're trying to do is follow up with their request and help these people in a manner that they really need and want you to help them. So just show up at their doorstep anyway, and you're going to find out that 90% of the time when you just follow the system and don't make reference that, yeah, by the way, I was the guy you talked to on the phone a couple of days ago, and you know, you told me you couldn't afford it, but I thought I'd just show up anyway. Don't go into it all. Just treat the lead and follow the door knock script, and you will be surprised how many people will let you in the door. You know, oh, okay, yeah, come on in. All right, there you go. So, guys, it's 10:04. Next week we're going to do this again, but what we're going to do is we're going to dissect each one of these scripts. We're going to cover the actual script, and we're going to review the science and the psychology behind the scripts. We're going to include things like tonality and mirroring your clients, which is absolutely vital and critical into having that instant credibility and ultimately leading to a scheduled appointment. So that's the meat and potatoes. It doesn't matter what kind of a script or lead it is that you're working. It doesn't matter how old that lead is. If you follow these scripts and you know it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. And guess what? More times than not, 90% of the time with me, I'm going to get an appointment scheduled upon first contact. And if you follow the script and you know how to read the script, how to act it out, and how to control the conversation, you too will be able to schedule an appointment on 90% of the people that you make contact with over the phone upon first contact. So, guys, I want you to all write this down. Looking back at these screenshots here, okay? Here's a post this one lady made. This is actually a short video, and then she posted her results. 28 appointments, $10,000 in annual premium. This lady got her license about 6 months ago. She's out of Florida. What a week. Continuous all of this industry and what an agent is capable of if you put in the effort and stay, what? Organized. Organized. And another, the lady who we looked at her schedule, who posted or wrote $45,000 in 3 weeks, she had this at the end of her post. I told myself that I can do it. I believed in myself, the system I'm working, the service I can provide. Every home I went into, I wasn't thinking about making the sale. I was thinking, how can I help this family or this person that I'm sitting with? How can I be of service to them and find a quality need? I didn't have to fight and beg the families that I sat down with to buy life insurance. They genuinely wanted my help because they requested the information. All I did was my job and made a few friends along the way. That's her mindset. What is our mission statement, guys? Leaving people in a better position how we found them. And when you look at this lady's activity right here, 400 calls, 253 calls, she went through a lot of dirt to find those gold flakes, and a mixture of all different kinds of leads, from telemarketed leads at $8 or $9 or $10 a pop, and Facebook leads at 15, 16, however many, whatever she's working, direct mail, B leads, C leads. She's making a lot of dials, and she's not even scheduling an appointment with the majority of the people that she's making contact with, right? And out of the appointments she's scheduling, most of the time she's getting stood up. But the appointment she is seeing is low-hanging fruit. She found those people who really are looking for somebody like her and is really interested in seeing what she can do to improve their situation and, of course, the mindset that she has. So there's a common theme with all these screenshots. Write this down. When you monitor and measure what matters, when you monitor and measure what matters, you got that? When you monitor and measure what matters will always improve. When you monitor and measure what matters will always improve. Guys, it's not an easy business, but it actually really is. When you know what you're doing, and you're disciplined, and you're organized, and you're following the system. Guys, Steve and I can only do so much, but the rest is really up to you. If you guys want to write $10,000, $15,000 every single week, you can. Are you going to have to put in more than 40 hours a week? Yeah, of course. You know, today, if I was out in the field on a consistent, regular basis, I would only be in the field 3 days. Because at the end of the day, I have a family. So understand that I don't expect you guys to go out there and, work from Sunday to Saturday. Okay, if you've got a family, if you've got responsibilities, if you have a spouse that's in need, or, an elderly mother that you're caring for, I get it, guys. So, but even putting in a solid 3 days, making Monday a scheduling day, and loading up Tuesday, Wednesday, and a Thursday, right? Can you still go out there and write $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 consistently? Yes! Yes, you can. Yes, you can, and this is how you do it. If you want to write $15,000 or $20,000, you're going to have to put in more hours. You're going to have to work longer days. And you're going to have to work more leads and generate more referrals. That's how it's done. It's no secret, guys.